Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to get a decent amount of FPS out of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It doesn't take that long. There's a few programs we need to get, but a few minutes at this and you can get some pretty good results. So stick with me and we'll get straight onto it. First thing you want to do is you want to make sure your drivers are up to date. Simply go into your GeForce Experience and click on drivers on the top. Check for updates. If you're all good, it'll say down here you have the latest GeForce Game Ready driver. If not, it'll show you here which one to download. Just download it, install it. It's all pretty self-explanatory. It's easy enough to do. After that, you're going to go on your Assassin's Creed icon, right-click, Properties, Compatibility tab, and you want to make sure Disable Full Screen Optimizations is ticked. Once that's done, click OK. The last setting that you're going to want to change is the NVIDIA control panel. So you're going to right click on your desktop, NVIDIA control panel, give it a minute to load up. And then you're going to go into Manage 3D Settings, Program Settings, select Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And what you're looking for is low latency mode. Normally this is off by default. You want to set this to on. This is basically what used to be max frames pre-rendered, I think it was called. So setting it to 1 is basically the same as having max pre-rendered frames set to 1. And with that done, you can come out of here, and that's all we need to do in terms of settings. Right, so next what we're going to want to do, now that we've got those settings done, is you're going to need to get EVGA Precision X16. I'll put a link to this down in the description below. So after you've downloaded it and installed it, you're going to have to make an account to use it. It is free. They ask for quite a lot of unnecessary details when you make your account, such as like, your address, your phone number. It's all required as well, but it doesn't really matter what you put in there as long as you've got a valid email address and you remember your username and password. But once you've downloaded it, installed it, done your set up your account, then after launching it, you're gonna have what looks like this. This is where we're gonna overclock the graphics card. Now, every card is different. Not every card, even if it's the exact same model, won't necessarily handle the same settings. It's gonna take a bit of tweaking on your own part, but luckily enough, this program is really easy to use. It's pretty safe as well in terms of you can mess around with it pretty freely and you don't have to worry about, blowing up your graphics card. The first thing is make sure you don't have this ticked on. You don't want it to apply. You don't want your settings to apply when Windows starts up, because if you are overclocking your card and you end up clocking it to the point where it's going to crash your machine because you've pushed it too hard, you don't want your PC when it starts up to immediately use that setting again and just continuously crash over and over again and have to go into like a safe boot mode. Luckily enough with this as well, you've got profiles which you can save your settings. So I've currently got, when I play Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I've got profile 3. So I click that and it'll automatically just kick in. So my fan will speed up, it'll kick some more voltage into my card, and it's raised these settings a bit as well. I'm not going to go into a massive explanation of overclocking and, what are the best settings, because to be honest with you, it's not something I'm really that, proficient at myself. But all I would suggest is sort of like a very basic explanation is you want your fan speed up, so as if to keep your card, reasonably cool. It will be louder, but it's important that your card doesn't overheat. You want to make sure this is unlocked as well, because you don't want these to be linked. You want to be able to adjust them sort of separately. Your voltage, if you raise this too high, it can be bad for your card. But luckily enough, relatively modern cards will cut off before they reach a dangerous voltage anyways. And this is not adding that much. So I've cracked mine up halfway. The reason why you need more voltage is the more sort of you clock your GPU and your memory and your graphics card, the more volts it will require to run stably. More power, so to, sort of get more out of your card. The problem is if it's too much power, it pushes it too hard, or it'll make your temperature rise on your card, which will then cause it to shut your PC down, or too much voltage in your card over a long period of time can damage your card, sort of reduce the lifespan of it. But as long as you don't go too far, it shouldn't. The common sort of opinion online is, you're safe to go, put a bit more into it and it shouldn't really affect too much. Put mine up plus 62, which is just about there. And this has allowed me to, I've gone for, you want your target power all the way. Your GPU temp target, 83 is good. You don't want it to be able to go higher than that. Anything higher than that, you could potentially start taking some life out of your card. So 83 is fine. And then you just slowly start increasing these. And I'd say plus 100 is a decent place to start, just, for very basics. And then what you do, you apply it. After you're done, you sort of launch your game, mess around. If it works fine, then all right, push it a bit further. And what you want to do is save it to one of these profiles along the bottom, which once you've got your settings and you've applied them, you right click on the profile and then you right click again, I believe, and then left click, and that should save it to your profile. So then all you have to do is literally click on that profile and it automatically put up your settings that you found. Set a profile every time you've got a stable setting which you like, and you'll be able to just start straight from there again. This is how far I've pushed mine. I've been able to play for 2-3 hours at a time with these settings, and I don't have any crashes. One more program you're going to need before we do anything else is River Tuner Statistics Server. And basically what you're going to do once you download it and install it, it's pretty straightforward, is you're going to launch it and give it a moment. It'll appear down here and just going to click on it. Now you have to add the exe for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So to do that, you just click add and then select it from, I've got mine on my desktop, so I just select it from there. And there's only one setting that you really need to change on this, and that is you're going to set the frame limit to 60. Now, the built-in frame limiter within Assassin's Creed Odyssey is very inefficient on your CPU. By using it through this, it's going to have a much bigger impact and make your game run a lot smoother. In that respect, it can give you a lot more frames, especially in areas that are sort of really dense, so like Athens and other sort of like highly populated cities in the game, where that's usually where you get the biggest FPS hit. And this will, like in my game, it saved me 10 to 15 FPS easily in crowded areas. Minimize that after you've set it up and it's ready to go. We're in the options now, and the first thing we're going to do is resolution. We're going to have this set to 1280 by 720. This is the lowest resolution you can run Assassin's Creed Odyssey at, and it's, to be honest with you, it doesn't look that bad. It's a bit blurry, but it's something you'll get used to pretty quickly. And with lowering the resolution, you'll be able to put up other settings a bit higher now, which is worth the trade-off, I think, because you can have it at full 1080p, so we can bump it up to this. But the problem is, everything else has to be that low with the graphics settings that it just looks terrible. So we'll have it on 1280 by 720. VSync, we want this to be on. Resolution modifier, you can leave this at 100%. You can bump it up or down, but I find bumping it down makes the game look pretty bad, and you don't get a lot of performance from that. And putting it up doesn't make that much of a difference, and you tend to take quite a FPS drop. Then the FPS limit, we're not going to turn that on because RTSS is already going to be managing that for us, and it's going to do it better. So from here we can go to graphics, and graphics quality is going to be custom. Adaptive quality, you want this off. If it's on, it just doesn't handle it well at all, and it just makes the game look worse most of the time when it doesn't need to. Anti-aliasing, I have this on medium. High, you can maybe get away with it, but for how much better it looks isn't really worth the FPS loss you'll take. If you're still not getting the frames you want, you can even drop it down to low. I wouldn't turn it off altogether though, because it does look pretty bad with it off completely. Shadows, keep those on low. It takes quite a lot of performance to boost this up at all, and they don't actually look bad on low. They don't make that big of a difference for what we're going for anyways. Environment details, you can have this on high. It can look pretty good. If you're really struggling again, maybe drop it to medium, but it's not too much of an issue for what we've got set up. Texture detail, this is a big one. it takes a lot of performance to have this just on medium as opposed to low, but on low the game looks terrible. Like, for me, this is one of the biggest differences you notice in the game, and having it on low is just awful. Everything looks flat, there's like no detail to anything at all. Whereas medium, this is why we're sort of playing it on 720 resolution, just so we can get this up to medium, and honestly it looks pretty good on medium. It's not bad at all. Terrain, you can get away with having this on high, it doesn't have too much of an impact. Clutter, medium again, doesn't have too much of an impact. Fog, you want this on low. Anything higher will just like really hammer your FPS. Water, you can get away with having this on high, that's not too much. Screen space reflections, medium is okay, it looks pretty good and doesn't take too much performance away. Volumetric clouds, this is another big one, keep this on low. Anything above that will just absolutely hammer your FPS. Texture detail, these two, you can have these on high, the character models will look really good, and it doesn't take too much of a impact out of the FPS. And at the bottom, so these two, ambient occlusion, you want this on medium. If you turn it off, again the game looks pretty bad. This is another one that has a big impact, but medium isn't too much of a hit on your graphics card. Anything higher on a low end card, just it will really lag, but medium should be okay. And then depth of field, this it needs to be off. If you even turning it on, just again takes a massive hit to your FPS. And to be honest with you, in my opinion, I don't really like it that much anyways. I feel like it looks better with it off. So with all that set up now, we'll run some benchmarks. Right, I've ran a couple of benchmarks. I tried to do it and record the screen capture through OBS, but it just didn't seem to work out at all very well. It was really laggy, and it wasn't a very good representation of how the benchmark actually looked. Now, the results I managed to get are, this is the first one without any overclocking. This is just standard sort of settings on the graphics card with the settings that we did in game. Now there's an average of 55 frames per second and a total frames of 3,435, which isn't too bad. That's pretty bearable to play with. Now with overclocked settings, we've got an average FPS of 58 and a total frames of 3,581. Now this isn't a massive difference, but it is noticeable, and considering you can get this improvement for free and by spending maybe 5-10 minutes sort of fiddling with the settings on EVGA X16, that's not bad. And with the RTSS software as well, how it'll sort of smooth the frames out for you, it's going to feel like you're playing with 60 FPS most of the time anyways. That's pretty much it for today. I hope you guys found this useful. If you did, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and if you have any tips yourself that maybe I missed, just leave a comment. So thanks a lot guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.